Welcome to the Explainer. So today, we're jumping right into the 12th century to look at a pretty incredible synthesis of purpose between the Waldensians and the Arnoldists. We're going to see exactly how two fiercely divided underground movements managed to bridge a massive ideological gap. Let's dive into what is basically the ultimate masterclass in grassroots compromise. Now, you might be wondering, how do two fiercely independent rebellions, both literally risking their lives just to exist, sit down in a room together and actually compromise? I mean, when the stakes are literally life and death, finding middle ground isn't easy. It requires serious structure, a lot of grace, and an immense willingness to just listen to the other side. Their blueprint for all this actually came from the Book of Acts, back when the early Christian church was facing this massive, community-shattering debate over circumcision. The leaders didn't just split into factions. Instead, they gathered together, they debated, and they compromised. And for the medieval groups we're looking at today, that historical moment was the ultimate proof of concept. Okay, picture the late 12th century. The whole feudal system, it's starting to weaken. Commerce is growing, and everyday language, the vernacular, is seriously challenging Latin. And against this backdrop, the source texts show this mounting grassroots criticism directed toward the Roman Catholic hierarchy. Critics were pointing out the growing wealth of the bishops, and they were incredibly frustrated that everyday preaching was restricted entirely to Latin-speaking clergy. Well, this tension quickly reached a boiling point. In 1155, an outspoken reformer named Arnold of Brescia is executed, but his followers, they managed to survive. Then, fast forward to the 1170s, Peter Waldo starts gathering his own followers in France. And by 1184, boom, he's excommunicated. These rapid-fire events put two very distinct rebellions on a collision course, which all culminates in 1218 at the Council of Bergamo. So who was actually coming to the table here? First up, we have the Poor of Leon. Founded by Peter Waldo, these folks were mountain people. Then, on the other side, you have the Poor of Lombardy. These were working-class tradesmen from south of Milan, heavily inspired by Arnold of Brescia. Now, they were definitely kindred spirits when it came to their focus on poverty, but practically speaking, they disagreed on almost everything. And here's where things get really tricky. Here's the fundamental clash. Waldo's followers were itinerant. They believed in absolute poverty, relying entirely on begging, and they rejected manual labor completely. But the Lombardy group, they believed in self-sufficiency through skilled trades and geographically fixed communes. Imagine the tension in that room. One group sees a day job as a huge distraction from God, while the other sees it as an absolutely essential spiritual discipline. Which brings us to a super important number, 9. When these two groups finally realized they had to merge just to survive the growing pressures around them, they didn't just casually blend together. Nope, they systematically identified exactly 9 major theological and practical differences between them. So in 1218, 12 delegates met up at the Council of Bergamo to hammer these out. And it wasn't just a casual chat, it was a highly structured, incredibly rigorous negotiation. So how exactly did they hash this out? Well, take the issue of leadership. Lombardy wanted an elected bishop, but Leon insisted on Christ alone. The compromise? Christ alone as the ultimate leader, but with a rigorous education standard put in place for local training. And what about that massive issue of labor? Waldo's followers ultimately compromised there, officially accepting the laboring tradesmen of Lombardy into their ranks. Honestly, it's a lot like a modern corporate merger, figuring out exactly what is core to the mission and what you can ultimately bend on. All in all, they successfully resolved 7 landmark issues. They agreed on everything from baptism being essential all the way to setting up local discipline tribunals. But get this, here is a truly radical, surprising fact for the 12th century. They actually agreed that marriage was not a sacrament and that mutual divorce was allowed. I mean, in medieval Europe, that was an absolutely revolutionary concept. Now, of course, it wasn't a perfect sweep. There were 2 sticking points they just could not resolve: the necessity of a deathbed confession for salvation, and a concept called Donatism. Donatism was basically this heated debate over whether sacraments given by corrupt or immoral priests were still valid. So what did they do? Interestingly enough, they simply agreed to disagree. They realized these specific points just weren't the core tenets of their new shared faith. So by compromising on 7 points in tabling 2, they successfully merged into a single, unified entity called the Poor of Christ. They took that fiery passion for preaching from Lyon, and they married it perfectly to the structural organization and pastoral care of Lombardy. Essentially, they created a highly functional, grassroots alternative to the institutional church. But, as you can probably guess, the institutional church did not welcome this development. According to the source texts, through the Inquisition, religious crusades, and severe punishments, this new movement was forced entirely underground. But here's where that earlier compromise literally saved them. Their traveling preachers used those skilled trades from Lombardy as a cover. They hid their true mission right under the cloak of everyday merchant work. And that incredible struggle for survival brings us to another massive number, 300. It took 300 years of surviving in absolute secrecy before the full impact of their ideas could be realized. That's 3 centuries of preserving the education of the laity, preaching in the common vernacular, and holding the Bible as the ultimate authority. To put that into perspective, those exact concepts are what laid the essential groundwork for the massive societal shifts of the Protestant Reformation. So, looking back at how mountain preachers and city tradesmen sat down in 1218 and synthesized their purpose, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How do the compromises we make today shape the revolutionary movements of tomorrow? By focusing on what truly mattered, the poor of Christ absolutely changed history. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the history that shaped our world.